The Sweetest Love, written by Just Thinking Drabbles. Read by Arashi. Yuri was not accustomed to large celebrations, especially when it came to the holidays. While growing up, it was just him and his mom, and they hadn't really been able to afford much of anything. Not that he really minded. So, as long as he had his mom around, nothing else mattered. She was all that he needed. Not much changed either once he had gotten older and started to live in Abyss. Of course, he would always send a gift to his mother each year, and he always gave something small to the rest of the Ashen Wolves. But he never really cared for the decorations or listening to holiday stories and songs that everyone else liked to sit around to hear. He had better things to do. And, well, if he was being honest, he really didn't like this time of year. It was always too cold, too wet, too lonely. He wanted nothing to do with it. Not until he met Ashe, that was. Ashe Ubert, who was a member of the Blue Lions class and who Yuri had known a little when they were young, was one of the sweetest people he had ever known. There was an innocence to him that he possessed, despite his difficult past, and Yuri found himself intrigued by it. He also thought the man was incredibly cute and charming, and as they spent more and more time together during their years at the academy and in the war, their relationship blossomed into something even more than simply friends. Now, Ashe was his boyfriend, and how he had managed to be so lucky was something he did not dare question. Their first holiday together, after the war, was a surprise to Yuri. Everything was decorated so beautifully with garland and stockings, and a large tree that was set up in the living room and was filled with so many ornaments and tinsel, as well as a large star at the top. Not only that, but their house was heated by the warmth of their fireplace, and smelled of several different kinds of sweets, which Ashe insisted on baking. Yuri was not terrible at cooking, but his skill was nothing compared to his boyfriend's. He couldn't help but smile fondly as he sat on the kitchen counter and watched Ashe bake. He looked so adorable in his holiday apron that Bernadetta had made for him a few years ago. It was a simple black apron, with a mistletoe and the words, "Kiss the Cook," written in green lettering on it. Yuri was not ashamed to admit that he had used said apron many times as an excuse to distract him. "You know, you look really cute," he complimented his boyfriend. Ashe chuckled as he was mixing the ingredients for the chocolate chip cookies they were making, and turned to look at him. "That's sweet of you to say, but I doubt it's true. I'm covered in flour and sugar." "Still cute," he replied with a shrug. Ashe rolled his eyes, but the blush on his pale cheeks could not be hidden by the turn of his head. "Is there something I can help with?" Would you mind helping me roll the dough?" Yuri nodded and hopped off the counter to help. The dough felt strange in his hands, but it was also strangely fun to roll. He had never baked before, but he did enjoy eating sweets, and Ashe's were always the best, in his biased, but very right opinion. "Am I doing this correctly?" Yuri asked, unsure of how round the dough should be before he placed them onto the baking sheet. "Almost," Ashe told him encouragingly. "Perhaps a bit rounder. Here, let me show you." He came closer to him then, and put his hands around his as he showed him the correct way to roll the dough. However, Yuri wasn't able to fully focus, as the feeling of Ashe holding his hands and standing so near was far too distracting. He realized suddenly that for the first time ever, he was celebrating the holidays in all the ways he used to hear about, and he was really enjoying them, though he couldn't be sure if it was because of their festive surroundings or because of Ashe and his lovely, cheerful attitude that made him want to celebrate more. Maybe it was both. "There you go, just like that. See, you're doing wonderful," Ashe told him, and his excitement brought Yuri from his stupor. "Well, I have a good teacher," he replied with a flirtatious wink. The two of them smiled at one another, and Yuri felt his heart flutter with warmth at seeing him so happy. He cupped Ashe's cheek, momentarily forgetting about the dough on his hands, and brought a gentle kiss to his lips. Ashe hummed happily, and stepped towards him, deepening their kiss further. Yuri hadn't the words to explain how wonderful Ashe always made him feel, but he hoped desperately that his actions would convey it for him. "What was that for?" he giggled when they finally separated. "Because I love you," Yuri told him, biting his lip nervously afterwards. He had never said that to anyone before, and, from how shocked Ashe appeared after hearing it, he started to think that he had never heard it before either. He almost feared that he might have overstepped, and he opened his mouth to try and salvage the situation. But then he saw him smile, and his cheek reddened a delightful, rosy hue. "I love you too," he said, and closed the distance between them once more. Perhaps, Yuri thought, the holidays weren't so lonely after all. How could they be, when he had the man he loved by his side to celebrate them with?